Three things on the agenda. This first one, the Sadler Senior Living Facility on Hodemont. This will be their third time before the committee. We approved the architectural aspects of the project last month at the meeting, but there were still a couple of questions for Ms. Sadler about the operation of the facility. So that's what we're going to try and get some answers on tonight. And then we have a couple of other projects coming before us, one for the first time and another that you have seen before. So in the interest of time, let's go ahead and get started. So I want to welcome back Mr. Albert Anderson and Miss Terry Sadler. Did you want me, why don't I, or I don't know, Monique, do you have the presentation by chance from last time? Or if not, I can pull up just some rendered views of the project so that we can all get an understanding of what we're talking about.
If you have quick access to the views, those views, that'll be ideal.
Okay, let me just pull those up real quick. All right, everyone seeing my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So this is a project at 730 Hodemont, right there at Enright, at the cul-de-sac of Enright, what you're seeing here right across from the metro station on the other side of Hodemont. The proposal is to replace the current facility that's there with this facility. And we had sent a letter back to them with some operational questions. So I'm going to start off just sort of going through that list of questions, if you don't mind, and then we can, if anyone else has any additional questions, then we can go through that. Sorry, apologies here. I need to bring that up real quick. I thought I had that pulled up. Apologize, everyone, for being less prepared than I should be. While I bring that up, I know one of the questions was just in terms of the age range of the residents that you plan on having there. There was some question, because I believe the current residents that are there, you know, you cater towards seniors, but really it's anyone that's accepting a certain stipend can live there. Is that correct? And is that your plan for the new facility, or will it be age restricted?
I wouldn't really look at age restricted. I would look at the type of resident. So can you start over? You said something towards the end that I'm gearing it towards. Did you say age or something like that? I didn't really hear your question. Yeah,
so wondering if this new facility that you're planning on building are for the residents, will you be accepting for the new residents, will it strictly be age restricted for a certain age, only seniors? And if so, what is that range? Or is it mostly based on you know, a programmatic or subsidy that they're receiving that they would be allowed to live here?
Yeah, it depends on the referral. So it's not really age appropriate, but I have that reputation. I screen people really well. And so it could be a mentally challenged person with slight mental illness, just can't manage their medications and can't manage their everyday life, but they're very, you know, community oriented, don't have any issues with living right in the community. And they could be 25 years old. And you may have a senior that's 65 with the same type of issue. So it's just there to offer them the service and the assistance that they need. So the age could range, but our regulators already stipulate the age. It has to be at above 18 years old. So it could be anywhere between 18 and 85.
Do you anticipate that most will be an older population, or do you foresee it being pretty diverse in terms of ages that you're serving? What's your expectation?
Most of my population is between, I would say 38 And I've had 80, 85-year-olds, 82-year-olds, as long as they can still ambulate. Yeah. So the age, it's kind of like middle age, late middle age to elderly for me. That's what my experience has been in over the past. So.
So is this considered assisted living or skilled care or a mixture of both?
No, this is assisted living only. Skilled care, you can have, it's a little bit more stringent work involved with that. They don't have to ambulate. You have a lot of intense medical treatments you have to give. So I won't have any of that. This will be assisted living where they have to ambulate and can make a pathway to safety. So everybody will pretty much be able to get to a path of safety if something happens.
Okay. One of the questions that came up during the last meeting, there are kitchens in the units, correct? But are there kitchens in units? Or is it just like a kitchenette in each
It's
unit?
like a kitchenette. It's not really a full-size kitchen like we would have at our home. It's just a kitchenette.
Is there a stove though?
It will be, it's not a stove there in these units. When we open up, if this was to get approved and we would start building, we would build where we would have the capability to put a stove in case I have this assisted living for 10 years and at 11th year, I may want to change to apartments for seniors. So I still want to have that capability of having a stove there. So to start off, it won't be a stove there, but it would have the capability of having one there later.
So we will rough in for a electric stove, but they will have microwaves currently.
Yes.
So at the start, there'd be like a cafeteria area where residents could eat, or would you serve them food in the rooms?
No, we will serve them, but they will also be able to have their own personal snacks or whatever it is they may want, microwave popcorn, things of that nature. If they want to lounge and have a snack later in the night or in the day, they would have that capability. But no, we will serve the main meals where you would need the range hood and things of that nature to protect the cooking, things of that.
Yeah, so is there a commercial kitchen as part of this facility, or are you bringing in food and have like a food prep area?
No, it would be a commercial kitchen with a food prep area. I currently hold food service license with the city of St. Louis, so it'll continue to be that.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, going through the list here. What sort of indoor amenities do you imagine residents to have as part of this facility?
The state requires us to have amenities like bingo, nothing major. We can take them out on trips, but they'll have a rec room. We have put some space in this elevation here for them to have a recreation room. We may call in people to, have little shows with them, things of that nature. But yeah, it'll just be the same that we do now. Recreation squares, bingo, social hour, coffee time. That's what they kind of have now.
Okay. And as for security in the building and around the site, are you planning on having on-site security on the facility as needed, on call? Will there be cameras on the exterior of the building?
Absolutely. I would have cameras on the exterior and the interior. And I also want the secured locked doors as well. So it would not be easy access into the building unless you would contact us on the inside to get access.
Got it.
And there definitely would be security cameras in the main areas where the staff will be. And if need be, I'm looking at just a monitor just for the cameras if that need shall arise. But yeah, definitely cameras in the inside and the common areas in the inside, common areas only, and then on the perimeters of the outside of the building.
And if there was a medical emergency for one of your residents, is there an on-call nurse or a nurse in the facility, and is there like a nursing room or medical facilities in the facility, or is
Yeah,
that all offsite?
Yeah, we have one room, and it doesn't have to be large. It's just a regular common room just for the doctor to see them when he's there, because they're seen by the doctor once a month, seen by the psychiatrist once a month. But if there's an emergency, there will be one room on site for those type of events. So.
Okay. The only other thing that we had in our letter was outdoor space. So have you guys taken a look at that anymore since last month? I think these are older plans, I think, that I got from you, Mr. Anderson, because the building hasn't been rotated yet, but shows sort of the similar.
What we're thinking, if you leave that up, I'll show. What we're thinking is right there where we were putting that emergency ambulance. We're thinking of putting that stair, since we got the space, putting that stair to the inside, and have the emergency ambulance come out there. That will give us more room. That will give us more room to make that lane wider, and then we won't have to go out the alley exit. And if we don't have to go out the alley exit, we'll put up some retaining walls and give them a couple of level spaces in the back for picnic benches or whatever. That's our goal. That's our goal that we're going to do in design development.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. I think that covered all of the points in our letter. I'll open it up to other committee members and our residents and guests if you have any questions for Sadler or Mr. Anderson. No, Dr. Stearns might have to leave a little early. Did you have any questions for them? You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Hi, how are you? Terry, I'm also in medicine. And I had a few questions about the just the emergency medical system and how they get in and out the building, because you know, like I know, that can get to be cumbersome. And I wanted to know if, in fact, you have the ability to come down Hodemont with the emergency medical people. Will they do that, or will they come down Enright?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
We designed a emergency exit for the ambulance right at the elevators. We also have a emergency exit on the opposite hand of the elevators in case they have to come down the steps, if that need be, instead of going all the way across the building. But we do have, if you look over where it says ambulance, that's an exit we're providing to come straight out to the street to the ambulance, which, like I was explaining to him, it's going to change a little bit, but we're going to still have that emergency exit over there for an ambulance to be able to take the patients out and into the ambulance.
Okay, so am I reading this correctly? They'll exit on Enright?
They'll exit on Enright, yes.
Okay.
Well, that your path right now is on
Hodemont. I meant on Hodemont. I'm
They
sorry.
mostly come down.
They'll exit the building on the Enright side, but they'll actually come to the ambulance at the Hodemont.
Right. The drive will be on Hodemont, ma'am.
Right.
And the ambulance entrance is sort of like on the Enright side, just to give you an idea of what side to look for it on. But they generally come down Hodemont as they do today.
So all traffic for the facility, both visitors, staff, medical, would all access via Hodemont.
Yeah. And also the state requires a nurse to be on staff as well. The facility I have now is only 8 hours required that they're required to be there per week. But when I go up in numbers, it'll be 16 hours that they'll be required to go up. And I'm a licensed nursing home administrator as well. So I'm trained in those type of areas to kind of, it's a lot of preventive things that I do to prevent them from having certain incidences and things of that nature. So, and I've been one since 2005. So we have the nurse and we have myself as well to take her in, and the doctors are on call as well. And my doctor has been with us well over 10 years. So she knows her patients really well.
You're on mute again, Dr. Stearns.
I'm sorry. I've heard nothing but good things always about your facility and your care. It's just that I was looking at the design of how you would get in and out of Enright or Holdemont, and that led to some questions about conversations with the neighbors in the area, what their expectations are with regard to the traffic going and coming. Have you had a chance to meet with them?
I have not. The last meeting I met with you guys, I kind of opened the invitation. I believe I left my email address, and I invited anyone to come to Holdemont currently to talk with me, and I've yet had a visitor or anything, but it's still an open door. If anybody wants to call, talk, or email, it's an open door, but I haven't heard from anybody with any concerns or anything like that.
Okay, we're going to share that. You're going to get a floodgate.
Okay.
Should they call you and make an appointment?
They can, and that would be absolutely fine, or email. You
Okay.
can also share my email address.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anyone else have questions? Okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind, Ms. Sadler, I think we have it, but if you could put your information in the chat real quick for folks that want it, that would be helpful, and we'll make sure anyone here that has any additional questions that they might want to ask offline. And I think we'd like to share that with at least the immediate neighbors at the property to make sure that they have that information as well.
Okay. Hit my chat button. Okay.
Jake, this is Amina.
Hi, Mina.
I would just say, because we have other developers on the call, if she would like to send her information over to Monique directly, and then she can share it from there.
Okay, yeah, if you'd prefer that, then that's fine as well. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Anderson or Ms. Sadler before they have to hop to their other meeting? Okay, well, great. I appreciate you taking some time out of your night for us, and we'll get back with you soon. And if anyone has any other questions that they think of later, then we'll be sure to send those your way.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Moving on, I'm going to pass it over to Monique to introduce our next guest.
Thank you and good evening. I hope all is well. And so these next set of guests are with us from the institution RES. We have Austin Love leading. I know that this specific site has been controversial in the past, and so I appreciate seeing so many people who are engaged and interested in the site, given the past controversy. I will say that both Austin and his partner Aaron joined us in a pre-meeting that I think most of us thought was productive, where this included many residents, several residents attended, where they laid out some of their hard concerns with the use of the property. And so Res joins us today, having had a pre-meeting, and we're looking to see them address some of the initial concerns. But I will say that they've done some due diligence in that way. And it seems like an interested partner, interested in our voice. So we appreciate that. And so what I'll do, I see we have multiple partners here. I'm not exactly sure who's all with you or who's taking the lead, if it's Aaron or Austin, but I'm going to give it back to them as they prepared a special presentation for us. Is it Aaron?
Yeah, Monique, I'm going to share my screen. So thank you for that for me. Let me know when I can.
Go ahead. You have power.
I have power. Okay. Let me expand this so that we can see the whole thing. I'm going to display full screen. Okay. First, thank you, Monique. I really appreciate the opportunity to present here with RES and SWT and Tim Kiefer, who's the property owner. We really appreciate having that opportunity to speak with it seemed like a dozen people previous to coming in here, and we heard what you said, and we are listening, and we've tried to incorporate everything we could within reason into the concept. This project has its limits within the MSD confines, and I wanted to, but we're here so that we can hear more based on the concept that we're going to be putting forward. We're going to provide some concepts as well as some images to give you an understanding of what the project hopefully the kind of character that it will take in the future. My name is Aaron Deffenbaugh. I am a landscape architect and a project manager for RES. RES is the nation's leading environmental developer, and I have had a long history in St. Louis. I've been here for a couple of decades working in St. Louis, and have worked on a number of influential projects, including the Ruth Porter Mall. I designed that redo for when the Greenway went through there, in which we hired some of the neighborhood kids to design and build the benches and trash cans. So community involvement is something that we're very keen on, and as well as I recently had worked on the Brickline Greenway, among other projects that of importance to this community and to Greater St. Louis. We have brought on SWT to do the design for us. They are also great leaders in this community, and have worked on many projects, including some of the initial stages for the Hodemont Greenway. Along the lines of this project, I'm showing this picture from Hopewell Missionary Baptist Church. It's not necessarily that I'm showing this because this is what the project would look like in the end, because this is a specific context. And I wanted to show that we do work within the context and do improve the aesthetics and the streetscape and the quality of the streetscape. Hopewell Baptist Church, this is a rain garden on the corner of Taylor and Bell Place. It was part of 3 different rain gardens that were built on their facilities. These, if you knew this street before, this was really overgrown and had trees and brush and all kinds of stuff, and we've cleaned that up and now have a very solid and defined rainscaping project here. We even pulled some of the foundation stones out of the old Missouri Baptist Hospital that was on site and used them in the landscape. You can see them in the foreground, and have made improvements to ADA as well as other things as part of this project. I'm putting this forward basically to show you that we do professional work and we do it well. This was completed at the end of October, and it was recognized by the alderman, Jesse Todd, by the mayor, who set aside October 31st as Hopewell Baptist Church Day in commemoration of this project, as well as the other work that they've done. So this is very much a positive community project. And the governor, lieutenant governor, vice president of the United States, and president of the United States also wrote letters of commendation. So, this was well received. And this is the level of work that we plan to and hope to do on all of our projects, including this one. SWT is a leader in St. Louis in sustainable design. They have been doing this since 1995, so nearly 30 years of being a leader in St. Louis. We hired them because they've done a lot of work with MSD on these projects, and they also have an understanding of the neighborhood. Plus, they do really solid work, and they've built dozens of projects around the city that are award-winning projects. And the hopes is that this will hopefully come close, if not become an award-winning project. The project is located within the bounds here of this yellow outline. So there's 2 properties there's land on the south and land on the north that will be included in this project. It sits right next to Ivory Perry Park and right on the north side of Windermere Place. And it will incorporate both of those properties as a part of this larger project right next to the future Hodemont Greenway. We've been in discussions with GRG. We've had multiple conversations with them about this project and the potential of connecting with the Greenway and potentially incorporating, but making sure that this is a positive project for the Greenway. And they recommended that we get in touch with Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. And so we did, and now we're sitting here with you as part of this, trying to just get connected with the community and make sure that we're being positive actors. With that, I'd like to hand this over to Tim Kiefer and let him say a few words about his excitement for the project.
Hey, thanks, Aaron, and thanks for everybody at this meeting. Folks like, involved neighbors are the glue of the community. So it's really cool to see all this happening. I know Aaron's tired. He just had a kid in the past week. So thanks for being here and putting this presentation on, Aaron. I'm Tim. My wife, Beth, and I were directed towards the lots on Cabney by the LRA in 2017. We purchased them in 2018 to build our family micro farmstead on the south, and we dedicated the land on the north to community as a pilot program to show community food forest as a viable solution to vacant land in the city. Since then, our vision for our business and family has expanded, and we've decided to not live on site. The very week we made this decision, RES contacted us to see if we were interested in building an MSD rainscaping project on our lots. After talking, we thought that rainscaping would align perfectly with this vision. So we remain committed to a vibrant, beautiful, thriving Northside community. It is a great delight that SWT has selected to design this project, and I'm excited about their presentation here. With RES and SWT, I know that this project will be an asset our neighborhood deserves and will enjoy for many years. Beth and I love and care for our community. Our vision has evolved over the years as we grew in relationships with our neighbors. RES, SWT, and I have listened to my neighbors. What we heard has been incorporated into the concepts you guys are going to see here. I'm happy to be here tonight to listen and develop a stronger relationship with the broader community. So thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. To start off, as part of this listening, I want to put forward what the project goals are that are guiding our project. First off, we need to meet the MSD goals to reduce stormwater runoff into the combined sewer system. They have, through the CSO EPA kind of slap on the wrist that happened a decade or so ago, they set aside funds to do green infrastructure projects. And we have developed, RES has developed a partnership with MSD that we will help identify potential projects and bring them through the design, the permitting, and the construction, and then hand off to a willing property owner that will maintain these projects afterwards in accordance with their agreement. So this is one of those projects. So we're working with MSD, and the project will, at a very minimum, meet MSD standards. The project, because it is part of the MSD funding, it only pays for a certain amount of, only a portion of work, which is focused specifically on the green infrastructure improvement. And that would include excavation and demo, paying for design, paying for the sewers to be put in, any kind of utility relocations, placing soils and aggregate in the bioretention basins, installing mulches and landscaping, and then restoring any part of the site that's been disturbed by the project. So beyond just the specific bioretention where we have to be working and have our materials. And then we'll restore pavements such as sidewalks and curbing in the street as part of this project. So, you know, it'll go in, it'll come out, and it's gonna look very professionally done and like it's a whole project, but it's only gonna be a portion of the concept that we're showing. But we're showing a fuller concept in this to help understand how that fuller concept and vision that Kim spoke of is guiding how this is gonna be designed. The project's going to meet and support the stormwater requirements of future development on and off site. We're looking at managing about 5.5 to 7 acres of stormwater that falls on the ground on the 2 different parcels. And any development that happens in the future that's within that catchment area, that those 5.5 to 7 acres will not have to go through the MSD stormwater process, because this project will offset the stormwater requirements for any development that happens within that drainage acreage. The green infrastructure in this project, it needs to complement the desires of the neighborhood character, such that this will be, you know, aspirational and an improvement to the current streetscape, which is exactly what we heard from the previous meeting. And there are many pieces and parts that will go along with it that we'll address here in the presentation. And it's also going to promote sustainable development practices, which obviously is offsetting future development, but showing that green infrastructure can be and is an improvement to not only the character of not only the environmental benefits, but also the character and quality of the places where we live, work, and play. I'm going to hand this over now to SWT, who is our engineers and landscape architects on this project, to present the concepts.
Thanks, Aaron. Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be a part of the team working on these improvements and the vision for the green infrastructure. My name's Jay Woschlager. I'm a landscape architect and partner at SWT Design, and also on this evening is Chantal Block, who's a civil engineer, and is part of the 2 of us are working on this project with Aaron and Tim and the rest of the team. So what we wanted to share this evening, as Tim mentioned, or as Aaron mentioned, is sort of the design concepts that we've created for the north and the south property. You can see on the plan here, this is just a plan version of the aerial view that Aaron was just speaking to a second ago. But we've looked at each side of the property and have a specific plan for each one of those that incorporates the green infrastructure and does so in a way that really brings it into the site, enhances that experience, and looks to keep with the aesthetic and the appearance of the community and the vision for the property. So as we look at the north property and the concept for it on the north side of Cabanilles, so here you'll see on the graphic the sort of the square that you see all colored in is the property itself of around an acre. Cabanilles is at the bottom of the page here, with the future Hodiamont Greenway along the north side. And what we look to do here is we've got 2 green infrastructure elements, or BMPs they're called, and they're kind of in the center of the page here. And we've identified sort of the low spots in the area. So we're looking at the property and where water flows onto the site and how we can collect that, treat it, and meet the requirements of the MSD program, but do so in a way that we're adding to the aesthetic and the character of the property itself. So this north side, as Tim was talking about, is identified to be an edible garden, a foraging forest is the big vision. So this project will implement the infrastructure of the MSD and the green infrastructure, and then with the potential for a future maybe soft surface path, and then the area in the center that is sort of the speckled color would be more of that edible garden in the foraging forest area, which would also extend out, beyond that loop walk. We maintain the community gardens along Cabaney and really blend in the front lawn and the aesthetic of the street into this north side of the property. If desired in the future, we are identifying the opportunity for a connection from the future Hodiamont Greenway to the park. But that's not part of the plan right now. What we're looking at this is the community space that's been talked about and has been envisioned for this piece of property all along. So really incorporating that green infrastructure into that vision and building it out. And so when we look at we keep talking about green infrastructure and BMP. So when we look at the next slide, that shows a little bit more about what we're talking about. So it's not a big turf, hole in the ground. It's not it's not an open lawn area. It's planted. So we look at a variety of plants that help filter the water, that serve the purpose of reinforcing the visions of the green infrastructure. So collecting the water, being able to transfer the water. So that image that's being highlighted there in the lower right, we see the opportunity to combine the two BMPs that we're talking about. So having water, collecting it in what may be more of a bioswale or a channel like this that's vegetated, and then carries it into the larger BMPs, like up above, the image above that, and to the on the upper left there. So fully vegetated with plant material that not only is appropriate for the conditions, but also again reinforces the natural setting within this property. The lower left-hand image is starting to think about that soft surface trail, the idea of the foraging forest, and the ability for the neighborhood and the community to come into the space and experience it throughout the years and throughout the seasons. That's one of the sort of passive values that come with an element like this, like these green infrastructure, is the plant material and the way it's intended serves a functional purpose, but it also provides seasonal interest, changes throughout the year, really creates a space that is welcoming and inviting. So and just really reinforces that idea of the edible landscape and the foraging forest that's proposed for this property as well. So that's the north side. The south side is a little different. So again, back to the vision that Tim had talked about a few minutes ago, and how we can envision this with the addition of the green infrastructure to provide that flexibility. So the thought now is, if we're looking at this as the south side, so Cabaney is there on the top of the page now. And as we look down into the site with Ivory Perry Park on the left-hand side, so on the west side of the property, when we think about this side, it's more about setting it up for the continued use as farm plots. So the large fence comes down. We have more of a smaller community farm idea with plots that can be used to grow commercial or other substance from a plot standpoint. A fence that's not a large barrier fence like on the south side now, but something that's lower, more transparent, but still provides some separation and boundary, because this area would, in this concept and this idea, does remain a space that's being used for production at some level. So, but still visible access, elevating that. Like maybe we talked about the gate, the face gate that's out there, incorporating that as an element that maybe would be, a terminus or a view as you come into the space, and then having a small structure building for equipment and storage, but all visible. And the idea here now is that we take the green infrastructure that we're talking about, and it's on the edges of the site, so on the east and the west sides of the site. So we're working on sizing these based on the drainage area that we're collecting, but they would be on the edges, which allows for the continued use of this south parcel for the S farm plots. And then on the south side of the farm area, we're proposing and thinking about the idea of a pollinator garden. So more of a natural landscape that could be connected through the farm. This again provides an elevated nature experience. And while it's not a stormwater green infrastructure, it still helps enhance that and expand that sort of focus and purpose that the green infrastructure is providing. We would collect water along that north edge and carry it to that east side BMP. And then when we think about sort of the imagery that goes with this side as well, we're looking at something on the north side. It is integrated into that larger woodland feel, or the idea of the foraging forest. Here, it's a little more of that residential scale. So we've talked a lot about keeping in the context of the neighborhood and that aesthetic and that experience. So thinking about how we're transferring water into this green infrastructure, again, thinking out plants and a mix of plants that provide that seasonality, that provide that color, as well as that year-round interest. And again, it's about a planted space. It's not about a basin of any kind. It's about it's a vegetated landscape that provides that water quality element. So, there's a lot of, we'll be working through selecting plant material and what that is and how the basins are planted as we go forward. But the idea is that it's a variety of plants that provide that interest. We have spring blooming, we have summer blooming, we have fall and winter interest, especially when we mix grasses and perennials and sedges and a lot of the different plant palette that becomes part of a landscape like this. So, the first concept we showed is kind of how at this point the intent is that the south side would continue to look and potentially operate. We've also looked at knowing the discussions that have been had previously with the potential future use of this south side. We've also designed this in a way at this concept level that same idea with this green infrastructure, same locations, same elements, the south side could easily be looked at as a development site. So here we've taken some of the cues from several of the houses that are on either side and on the other side of Cabany with footprints. So the blue rectangles in the center represent the footprints that are similar in scale to the houses on the street, showing the same setback from the street with entry drives, taking advantage of the existing curb cut that is there and adding maybe a second one for a second lot, and then having this detached garage. So the idea being that we're thinking about the future. This project is thinking about where this property could go in the future. And as Aaron mentioned up front, providing some of that infrastructure in place that if developed in the future would be likely required. And when we've sort of taken that first pass, and the intent being that we want to design it and construct it now so that it remains in place. It wouldn't have to be redone at a future date. So we're taking those opportunities and potential into account. Wanting to think about how it functions now, making it functional for that and elevating and enhancing that, but also thinking about where this property might go in the future.
So, we hope that you feel that we've listened to what you've heard. We hope that you see that we're trying to make sure that this is an asset and that it is going to be a benefit to the community in more ways than one. Obviously, the housing development, potential housing development in the future would be a great asset should that happen. But we're planning for that. Also, the Hodiamont is going to be built probably in the next 5 to 10 years. Who knows when the section that goes along this edge would go. And Tim is, he actually wanted and asked us to approach DRG about the potential to make that connection between the Hodiamont to the park. And he's super excited about it. That is something that he's agreed and GRG has agreed would be something that would have to go through the neighborhood, as the neighborhood obviously has spent a lot of time thinking about that project and trying to understand what would be the best places for those kind of mid-block connections and the key points along the route to focus activity. But Tim would like to put this on the table as another opportunity. So, and there's a few missing pieces, like homes that are between that apartment parking lot and the property that could be developed in the future. That those properties would also see the benefit of this project and the stormwater management that this one is taking on. So I want to hand this back over to Monique or Jake. Hi, Jake. It's been a while. And we're totally want to hear any questions and hopefully get more input on this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation and the time. We do want to open it up for questions. First, I want to see if our chair has any specific questions.
I do have a couple, but I'll actually wait to save those till see if anyone else
Okay.
has questions first. So
Okay.
feel
Okay,
free
perfect.
to put questions in the chat. Monique and I will look at that, or raise your hand, or just ask.
And coming off mute works too.
Yeah.
I see. Well, yes. Actually, I see Mr. Hamilton actually physically raising his hand. So yes, if you want to come off mute. He's just here we
There you
go.
go.
Perfect.
No, I'm good. I want to make a correction first. And first of all, Jason and Aaron, great plan. And I have no doubt that you guys really at the top of your game. Yeah, I think some of us have seen that a lot of these, I call them, well, we call them water retention, but they are holding ponds. And the correction I want to make is that MSD had more than a slap on the wrist. It's for 20 years, at least when I got here, they were supposed to make the correction. And most municipalities, at least those who call themselves progressive, got money from the federal government. And they separated their stormwater from their regular sanitary, their sewer lines. One of the things that is in St. Louis is that we have deep lines. And when I started to work here, we were to take, well, in new construction, we were to take the stormwater off the roofs, and we were going to take them out to the front of the lawn, and we were going to turn them down 3 feet until the city was able, at least MSD or whoever was able to build a stormwater system. The big question I have is that why? Why does it has to be done? Why do we get all of these holding ponds? And that's exactly what they are. The only thing that happens is to keep all the stormwater from flooding the system all at one time. And so it gradually seeps into the system. Now, from the real point, from the whole system of ecology, there isn't going to be any more water. They finally figured that out about 50 years ago. And the fact is, the tears that we shed now are basically, this is it. This is the water that we're going to get. So the fact is that if there's not going to be any more water, we have to make darn sure that we save as much as we can. And this is where we're going with this. Now, my house is 116 years old, and I uncover a cistern in my backyard. And I think a lot of these old houses has the same thing as well. So if we're building these things now, why in our neighborhood? Why are we doing this for MSD? What's the purpose? What do we get out of it? We need houses. We've done enough sacrificing in our neighborhood. In talking about sustainability, the best way to sustain our neighborhood is to make sure we have people that's living in them. That's my statement.
is that a statement, or do you want me to address that
Well,
question?
I want why. I want to know why. Why does it have to be built in our neighborhood? Can it be built some other place? What did MSD tell us?
Well, as you know, in the city of St. Louis, everything's quite complex. So there's not going to be a straightforward answer as far as they don't have a master plan for where they want to develop these things. They don't have a mandate in which they can go and take over properties and redo certain areas. They've told us specifically over and over again is that they want to be a community partner, and they want to work with communities and people within those communities to improve the well-being of St. Louis as well as people downstream. The reason that the CSO was slapped, EPA slapped that big $4 billion plus project on St. Louis is because the way we deal with water right now throws water out there as fast as it can and gets it off the property really quick and says, you guys downstream deal with it. And the EPA said we can't do that. And so now it would obviously, you brought this up, Mr. Hamilton, that there's a lot of infrastructure. It's a combined sewer. It's been that way for century plus, and redoing everything, it would be an incredible expense. So within the city proper, well, actually a couple of watersheds, the EPA and MSD determined that it would be better to take a more of a green infrastructure approach in those areas to try to reduce the stormwater, the negative impacts of stormwater, and in areas outside of those specific drainage areas would be handled with other solutions that are more, sub-infrastructure. When it comes to the specifics of this location, Tim is the property owner, and it's his property, and he wants to be sustainable, and he wants to be ecologically engaged, and he wants to have a project like rainscaping, like he said up front, that is part of his vision. And so, it's something that he's coming to this neighborhood and saying, I see this as a benefit. He's talked with people along the street and about, this edible landscape vision on the north side, and has people that are really interested in it, and they've been developing that idea for ever since they've been there. On the south side, obviously, there's been some back and forth, and the vision has evolved over time, and they continue to listen to the neighborhood and try to move forward based on being community partners, and so and part of that community partner is being very open to trying to make that connection to the Greenway, which is a safety issue, and part of your comprehensive plan that you're working on right now. Green space and engagement to nature is another part of that comprehensive plan. This is a community space, and then on the south side, he's looking at that as a productive space, that he would be able to utilize that as like an incubator space for the for other people that are looking to get into urban farming. And as things develop over time, he doesn't have the funds to build development right now, but he's trying to make sure that is still an opportunity moving forward. And based on this project, that opportunity is actually going to help development of not only this property, but multiple other properties that are heading up the hill, if those properties were to have development between the buildings there on those kind of open lots between buildings.
Question.
Mhm.
Where do the water flow when at the end of the day, when we have those rainstorms, where does it end up?
Well, it goes downhill.
Where?
But
Off the
it
river.
starts at the top, goes downhill, goes into the different systems at different locations, whether that's a curb inlet or an area inlet or follows a channel down a stream. It all flows downhill and downstream towards the Mississippi River, either through De Pere or other watersheds. And so the water starts, where this location is, and anywhere along that run, if we can lessen the demand that's placed on the system downstream, then it helps with backups. I tell you what, I had a kid this weekend, and it's stressful. And I came home on Monday, and I had a basement backup. And I had a basement backup because stormwater went into my sewer lateral and backed up into my basement. And so I got to replace my sewer lateral outside, and I've got to clean up my basement. And I had to throw out a whole bunch of stuff. And that's because our system is taking on too much load. So there's a lot of different benefits that come from this. But, I unfortunately got some of the negatives.
Yeah, but the deal is that for eons, nature figured it out a long time ago. Gravity is going to run down. It's going to hit the main river, creeks, whatever thoroughfares, and it's headed down. So it appears to me what may be happening is that someone downstream, heaven knows where they are, who really don't vote for the benefit of St. Louis, is going to get sort of a windfall. And we're going to slow the water down, which they ought to be building their system. And at the same time that we're here talking about holding this water up, holding ponds, of course, if you want to call them bio-retention ponds, that's fine with me, until somebody figures something out. I say that we have contributed enough. And the only reason why it's complex is that the fact is St. Louis, they don't have a problem doing what they want to do. When you're talking about complexities, they always do that in the Black neighborhood, to be honest with you. And so we've had enough of these in North St. Louis. But anyway, I won't take up any more of the time, but I just really want to know, why did MSD decide that they need to put this thing here?
I think they're probably looking for vacant land wherever they can, or
And they got it.
Yeah.
Downstream.
Want to make sure that we have time for lots of questions, because I'm sure we got plenty of others. So I see Miss Gaines has her hand up.
Good evening, and thank you for recognizing me. I didn't want to start out this way, but it did come to me when Mr. Hamilton said, why? What shot through my mind quite quickly was, why not? And I'll tell you why I say, why not? I lived on Cabiny, and now I live downstream on Cabiny, or upstream, whichever one you want to do, for just about 36 years. So when we talk about the neighborhood and we talk about the transition, I've seen it all. I was very, very excited to see the renditions of the North and the South Side. My husband and I, Vernon, owned property on the North Side. We owned the 3 townhouses that are immediately adjacent to the property Mr. Kiefer has. Now, prior to Mr. Kiefer and his wife, Beth, coming into our neighborhood, as Mr. Hamilton says, our neighborhood, it was a terror. It was a war zone. It was, in some people's language, a hot mess. it housed, in that particular area, it housed overgrown trees, bushes, trash, drug paraphernalia, stolen cars, you name it, it was there. Suddenly, the land got cleaned up. We didn't know who was doing it, so my husband went out and inquired of Mr. Kiefer, who are you, what are you doing, and what's going on? And I'm going to back up a minute. For 36 years, or part of the 36 years that I lived on that block, I was the block captain. I shared the responsibility with Mrs. Logan, who has since passed. After seeing the renditions, I get this thought. I look at Visitation Park. I've looked at it every day for 36, 37 years, except for this last year. I've looked at Visitation Park. It's what I used to call, and still call to a degree, a gem in the rough. Now, one of our former aldermen, Frank Williams, he came in and he did a lot of improvement to the park. We have music in the park. And I just got to thinking, wouldn't it be a beautiful thing to walk up the street and see all this loveliness as people, because we get each summer when we have our music in the park, we get a couple of hundred, even to the point one time we had 1,000 people up in the park to listen to the music. Now, I agree with Mr. Hamilton. I would like to have a house. We sold our property. I'd like to move back on Cabanne, and I'd like to live in a house too. But I have to wonder, where was all this concern prior to Mr. Kiefer coming on the scene? Like I said, just about 36 years, we looked at that mess. So if you can't tell by now, you should know that I am strongly in support of whatever positive, whatever good, whatever beautiful comes to that area. And thank you for allowing me to have this time.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Ms. Gaines. Just want to, before I move on to, I see a couple of their hands up. We are rapidly dwindling on time here. So if we could keep questions and answers succinct and focused on the project, that'd be appreciated. Trina, see your hand up.
Great, good segue for what Adrian just ended with, the beauty of it. So I would like, if you could take us back, Aaron, to the rendering for the north. Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to be clear about something. You stated it, but we know the pictures say 1,000 words. So while you're talking, people are looking at the picture and seeing the possibility. But what's misleading about this particular rendering, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you are showing the proposed project, which is the items marked BPM, and I guess lawn. But the foraging forest, I'm not even sure about the buffer even piece. It would have been helpful to have it. It's great to see the vision, but it would have been helpful as a visual to see what you're proposing and then overlay the vision after you show what you're proposing so that people are clear what it is that you're asking us to approve. So could you, based on this picture, I mean, you can't redraw it as we're sitting here, but is it my, do I have the correct understanding that the project that you're proposing is the items marked BPM, BMP, sorry?
So, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to clarify this. Thank you very much for catching on to that specific detail. So I had mentioned that the project would reimburse for improvements that have to do with stormwater, and I can point those out. Those will be bringing water in off of the street into some kind of an enhanced channel. So it'd be an aesthetic feature that would go from somewhere around where that, that tree, the existing tree is, and and move water down towards these kind of larger green areas with blue dots. We will have to make, we're going to have to make the crossing of the future trail. That's going to have to be taken into account. So there will be a crossing here as well as here. That's part of it. This BMPs, which are basically, this whole back quadrant of the project, those will be part of the improvements. And in order to build these, we're going to have to disturb other parts of the site, which will likely be areas in this location, because there are some existing trees over here and over here, and we want to keep the community garden. So we're going to have to restore the areas, around this, basically kind of the sidewalk, all the way over here, the property line over here, and then, around these trees and over to where we'll be installing this, this stream feature. That right now there's, boy, Tim, you could probably tell me, but I know that there's at least 60, if not more, shrubs and trees, edible, part of the edible landscape that is in infancy that are out there that are going to have to be.
Yeah, it was actually 100 trees that neighbors and friends we planted in the fall of 2020. And then there were about 30 or 40 that we planted leading up to that time. So there's a considerable amount of vegetation that we established.
Yeah, so we're working with Tim to try to figure out how we can either retain those and store them and keep them watered so that they will survive the project, or that we would replace those. And those would be installed probably in those locations where we're showing this foraging forest area. This path area that you see with the gray, that is not going to be part of the project. But as you know, there's a lot of mulch out there right now. And that I'm sure Tim would love your support, everyone on this call support, to help, place that mulch in a trail around the property, to put a delineation around this foraging forest, as well as, any help to keep that foraging forest going. This buffer here, no, that is likely not going to be installed. There probably will be a few trees like these that would go in, but for the most part, it's going to be the planting of these areas, and then we will install lawn in areas around that's not, this foraging forest where we'll be moving plants to, and any areas that were surrounding that were disturbed will become lawn. So it will take on a more residential character. So, in an essence, a lot of this, what you're seeing here in concept, would be, you would see at the end of construction.
Okay, so I think that's a matter of perspective, because I don't see that it's going to be a lot. It looks like a little less than half is actually going to be developed by this project, but it doesn't matter. So the other stuff, though, is there funding? Does Tim, I think that's your name, have the funding secured to realize this vision that we're being shown here? I'm sorry, I wasn't sure if your chat was to my question or to April's question, Tim. But for what's being shown here, we know we have dollars secured, I guess, for what you're proposing, Aaron, which is maybe a third of this space. For the other stuff that we see on here, like the buffer that won't be there, the walkway that won't be there, the foraging forest that everybody's getting excited about that won't be there, is there funding secured for that? Yes or no?
All right, I've just outlined in red the area that is likely to be disturbed. And most everything in there, except for the trail, will likely be there when
You
the
said
project.
the foraging forest won't be there, so is that just gonna be grass?
It's immature. You know, so there's trees and shrubs right now that are out there that they haven't reached maturity.
And who's, okay, so Tim's maintaining the stuff that's not mature. I'm assuming Tim is maintaining that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that will be relocated, you know, in here and probably around in these browner areas. And, you know, what we could incorporate into the BMP planting, we'll look at that too. So, so there will be an immature foraging forest started at least in this location and probably around the edges as well.
And the person or group responsible for maintaining this foraging forest then is Tim. Not.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Adrienne Gaines. When you say immature, I'm hoping you mean because the trees haven't grown, because we did plant 100 of them.
Yep. They just haven't grown.
So I'm just, yeah, because
there.
they are there. I know they're there because I was planting them, but they haven't reached maturity. So when you're looking at where it says the foraging forest, all of that has trees in it. In fact, there's trees all over the place. Now, some of them, if I'm correct, will be a little displaced because
Well, he said all of that is going to be disturbed. So
well, it's a difference between disturb and doing away with.
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of semantics and language that's being used by Aaron, who's got a different language than we have, and maybe by myself and Tim, who have, especially Mr. Kiefer, who would have a different language. But if I'm understanding it, what's there will remain there. We may lose a tree. We may lose one of the 100 trees, but we're not going to lose all of them. Thank you.
For sure. Yeah.
Trina, did you have any other questions?
No.
All right. We got a couple more people, so I want to keep moving. Mark, got a question?
Yeah, I got a quick question. I see everything that you guys designed and stuff. You got your trees and your edible gardens and stuff like that. What made you determine this spot as being the place where you would put the retention ponds for MSD? Because what I see you guys doing is putting into the retention ponds and going around the stuff that Mr. Kiefer already has there. And what made y'all determine to come to this exact spot?
That's a great question. And I'm going to allow Jay to speak to that because he's the technical expert on this and he'll be able to, a very good answer.
Yeah, I think with regards to why we picked those locations for the BMPs is looking at the existing slopes on the ground, so the lay of the land.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm saying, what made you zero in on this area to put a MSD retention area? I understand why you came up. You did soil dynamics and stuff and did some type of stress calculations and stuff and figured out where the water was running and all that. I understand all that. But what made you determine that out of all the places in the West End, this was, or around the city, that this was the spot that you guys wanted to pick?
That goes back there.
Okay, it's not a technical question. I got you. That's for me. Thanks for asking that question. That's great question. So if you would like to have a project like this, then come talk to us because we work with anybody that is willing to build these projects. And,
okay. So what you're saying is the property owner requested you guys to come there to look at the the availability of funds for doing this project?
The way that it works is like I said, we have a partnership with MSD in which they're asking us to help identify properties and landowners that are willing and interested or even excited, like Tim, to have these projects. And so, you know, this was a location that actually Tim Moritz, who's on the call, had driven by and just said, this looks like a great place. And we looked at it and said, there could be 5.5 to 7 acres of stormwater that we could manage on these 2 properties. It seems like it'd be a great opportunity. So then we went and talked to Tim, and Tim said, oh my gosh, this is great, fits in with my vision. And from there, we've said, all right, let's see if we can't do this.
Okay, one question. Mosquitoes.
That's a great question. Well, I'll let Jay talk about it. That's tech.
Well, that one back to me.
Do you guys mind if I go back and answer the question about why in this location and our process for that?
Yeah.
I think that's important to clarify. We take a holistic look across the city at topography and areas with a lot of flooding. And so we look for where the water's going and where we can efficiently intercept the current infrastructure, because all of these BMPs still need to connect back to the storm sewer system. They just slow the water down. So we look for efficient ways to manage as much water as possible to have as much of an impact on that neighborhood and any sort of flooding issues that are possible. And often the sites that we would identify may have a building or a structure on it. In this case, this was open land. Even though it was held by a private landowner, it gave us the opportunity to engage with that landowner and ask him, are you interested in doing a project like this? Because it's something that there's funding for, and we can facilitate all of it. So it starts by looking at the landscape and looking for the best location in a neighborhood and overlaying that with vacant land.
Okay.
And so I can answer the mosquito question too, and I can do it pretty quickly.
Okay.
So all of these things are designed to capture water, but they're not designed to hold water for very long. They are not designed to hold water long enough for mosquitoes to breed in. And in fact, as an aside to that, so the habitat's not there for mosquitoes to actually breed. And secondarily, all of the pollinator plants that you saw those pictures of actually attract insects like dragonflies and other insects that eat mosquitoes.
So in order to keep the mosquitoes down, it has to be maintained.
It has to be maintained. It has to be functioning properly. That's correct.
Right. That's okay. And one other thing, this is kind of one of the high points of the city, and water is going east to the river from here. So it makes sense, but you know.
And overall, MSD has a requirement where they have to employ over 400 acres of green infrastructure across the city in the next 20 years. So this site in and of itself, I heard the mention of an acre. So this is 1/400th of their entire goal for green infrastructure that has to be deployed in the city. So you think about this is a little drop in the bucket compared to what they have to tackle across the entire city.
Well, so what you're saying is they're scrambling for any place they can get pretty much that fits the bill for a place where they can do this.
They're looking hard, that's for sure.
Okay. The design looks nice. So
can anybody hear me?
I'll pass this off to you, Jake. I'll just butt in here.
Okay.
The water will be gone, almost guaranteed, within an hour. So it's not going to hold water for very long. And they're designed to, at maximum, hold water for a little over a day. And mosquitoes can't breed within that time frame.
I wanted to
Hold up, everyone. We are running low on time. I know we got more questions. And so was it Jerome? Did you have
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. I've been playing around with this thing. So just for future reference, don't buy a mic on sale at Walmart. All right. All right. So this is I've been watching this project, and I stay on Cabinet, and I've been curious about not just this, but other projects that are going on. Part of what I do, I'm a former school teacher in the Jennings School District. I actually help feed the city, work with St. Louis Mutual Aid and Art House St. Louis. We've been feeding different parts of the city of St. Louis for over 10 plus years now. And I like where this project, the potential here. I do like where the potential is here. I haven't heard anybody mention about getting like the schools involved and seeing something so unique being developed. The science, all the science that's going on here. We have an international school right across the corner down there. And I think, I've had pleasure meeting former Tim. I had a pleasure meeting former Tim before, and it was brought up before, and I know there was I guess hubbub would be the least of ways that we can describe this, but whatever happens, this type of science, this time, is it possible to get some kind of commitment from you guys to saying that we would work with the schools and share what's going on here and maybe get some youth involvement? And I mean, we have future engineers that they probably think they have to go 20 some miles away to see something like this. And it's being built right now. We should, it's an opportunity in my opinion. It's an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harris. That is totally, you're spot on. And I'm going to let Tim Moritz address your comments, because he's in Chicago, and what you're talking about, he's in the middle of. And we're actually trying to figure out how to develop the future workforce, the future leaders of our community to be able to be engaged in this. So Tim?
Right. All right. Oh, and just before you speak, Tim, the one thing I've noticed, like especially where I've noticed there's some movement in St. Louis City for people to grow their food even more at home. So we've been giving food away. We're fortunate enough to work with Whole Foods and a couple other people like Fresh Time. So we're really big into the organic food movement. Okay, like seeing this. I mean, even like right now, this foraging forest, this edible garden, the science and the promotion of that, I would definitely love to see this brought to some of the adults, not just in the city, but maybe we could use this as part of a model program and for other people across the country. There's a real disparity in what we have as what some people would call quality food versus what you can get over at Save a Lot. Nothing against Save a Lot, I love Save a Lot, but there's the opportunity here is just, I would hate to see it disappear, but I would definitely like to see it maximized. That's right. All right, Tim, go ahead.
Oh, no, and I definitely appreciate that comment. And we could talk for a couple more hours on this. And apologies that we didn't bring education to the forefront. We talk about the functional benefits of these BMPs, and that's flood reduction and reducing basin backup. What's missing from that, though, are the co-benefits. And we've talked a little bit about that with recreation, nature, well-being associated with being immersed in these natural areas. But what is also as important is not just in community engagement in this sort of setting, but doing a kickoff when we're getting ready for construction, while we're planting, doing a community event where we bring the schools in, we bring the neighbors in, we can talk to them about the process of construction, the benefits that these plants will have long lasting with the community, not just from a recreation standpoint, but you talk about education and future engineers. Flooding problems as a society are not going away. And these things are being taught in school right now. So the more that the school age children can learn about this, they can see that there's a career and there's a job path in this. And that's one of the things that we keep bringing to MSD. We've got a great property owner and a partner here who's willing to say yes to a project like this. We probably talk to 6 to 10 property owners who all say no before we get to one that says yes. And the majority of the reason for that is maintenance. And it's not just the cost of maintenance, it's the knowledge of how to do the maintenance. And so something we've incorporated into all of our projects are maintenance manuals to turn over to the landowner. So that includes things like native plant identification, invasive plant ID, how BMPs need to be cared for from a functional standpoint. And so those materials from an education standpoint can absolutely be incorporated into, you know, some outreach days with school children. All of these sites end up getting signage, like you saw in the first slide from the other project that we did. And then Aaron mentioned Chicago, and that's where I am now. And what is really interesting here in Chicago, there's a program called Green Corps. And this is something we are trying to instill with MSD, telling them that these property owners are saying no to these projects because they aren't getting the support both financially and from an education standpoint on how to manage these projects. Well, Green Corps is a 8 to 12 week curriculum where inner city and high risk youths can enter this program and learn about the disciplines of ecology, native plant construction, native landscaping. And when they come out of this curriculum, they have the plant ID skills. They actually get the licensing to be able to treat invasive plants. They get prescribed burning education and certification and chainsaw skills. There's other tracks that these folks can take, but those are programs that I have personally tapped into for hiring for our needs as a company within, the Chicagoland area. And that's a model that we've taken to MSD. And we said, look, guys, we'd love to bring you more projects, but we need landowners to say yes. That's our biggest holdup right now.
I gotcha.
And so if we can educate them and create a workforce to help maintain these and show the community members why these are important, those are ongoing conversations we're currently having.
Okay. Well, I would definitely love to see that take off because if anything, I have a chance to work with youth, and I've seen kids that have been totally just written off in the classroom, but you get them outside and they actually get to touch grass. They actually get to plant seeds and they actually get this chance to see something grow from nothing. Those are life-changing things. Those are life-changing events. And my real concern is making sure that this is maximized on what it can actually give to our youth. It's maximized, making sure that we have that every opportunity to help them grow and understand is taken advantage of. Every way that we can reach our kids, the better. So that's my piece.
And we'd love to coordinate that with you and what you would like to see in that, because the more we create awareness about these, the more of these projects we're going to be able to do, and the more community involvement we're going to get in them. And so count us in. We're all for it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Thank you. All right. I got two final questions. I'm going to get them done in 2 minutes.
Good luck.
First one, regarding the permanence of this. So if this gets put in, and say 10, 15 years down the road, Tim decides he wants to sell his property and the lights are about to go out on me here in the office. There we go. What happens? If this gets built, is there a deed restriction put on the property that like these are there no matter what, or would the new property owner have the ability to, bulldoze these and build a building?
Yeah. So
Aaron. Tim, I can speak to this specifically.
All right.
The short answer, yes. There is a easement agreement that is perpetual with MSD. No, they don't have to stay in place. They can be relocated as part of a future development. Yes, we have designed this such that future development should benefit from these improvements, and hopefully the new developer, or Tim, if he were to develop, wouldn't have to pay to do the MSD improvements, which are mandated anyway. And so it's a win-win. We're doing it now for the future so that it doesn't have to be done later. And we're trying to locate it appropriately. And if it's not appropriately located for a future developer, then they can determine that they can move it. They just have to abide by the requirements.
Okay. And last question, in terms of maintenance, which you sort of already answered, Tim. So it sounds like you guys hand off a sort of best practices on how to manage the property once the improvements are done. But does MSD provide any funding or anything of that nature to maintain the property after the project is completing, or would all of that fall on Tim to maintain? And what happens if he doesn't maintain it?
Yes, yes, it does fall on Tim. As you heard, that he's got neighbors that are very helpful and handy. Maybe you can get connected with the school and they could be helpful and handy. But part of the design and part of what we do as part of this, our project, is that we try to make these so that they're easy to maintain, and that they're understood, and that the property owner understands from the very beginning, before we even say we're going to move forward with the project, the property owner understands what is required, and Tim has signed on the dotted line saying that he will abide by that mandate. MSD does have some legal requirements. Once a year, he has to turn in a report, and if these are not functioning appropriately, then there will be a lien placed on the property, and that he would have to remedy. But our one, you've already noted, this is Farmer Tim. And he knows the land. And he knows how to maintain, and we're adding in lawn basically to help out. And this should be a fairly easy to maintain and relatively low maintenance. There's not a no maintenance landscape anywhere. So there will be maintenance. MSD does not pay for anything, and that's what Tim Moritz was trying to address, is that we're trying to develop that as a way to support landowners and more of these types of projects.
Got it. Okay. Well, we are past 8 o'clock, and we still have to have some internal discussions for some items. So I appreciate everyone's time. I'm assuming, well, I know Monique has everyone's contact info. So if there's any other additional questions that come up, I'm assuming it's okay to email you guys or give you a call.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. Yes, please.
Okay. Silence. No, don't call us again.
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, very good. Well, appreciate everyone's time and the presentation, and we'll let you know our thoughts after we have a little chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. If everyone else could stay on and give me a second so I can